February 2025 board meeting. We're having our program visit today. We're visiting pre-technical studies with Mr. Gabe Bastola. You're not on camera yet, Mr. V. I gotta switch the camera on. I'm all on. And action.
Action. Good evening. Gabe Bastola. I teach this class that we call Pre-Technical Exploratory Tech Center. It's a unique class here at the Tech Center, that's unlike many of the others that you might have visited already. We probably will throughout the time of these tours here. And I'll get into why we're different, but I'll tell you a little bit about myself. We're different. So, a lot of different backgrounds before I got into education. Whether it was things in the legal field, items in landscaping, stonework, hoop fitting, and customer service, all between there, kind of a very broad.
There was paralegal in there, I remember.
That's correct. Yes. Got into education prior to my work here at the River Valley Tech Center as a middle school math instructor, and have since added high school math endorsement to my portfolio that allows me to stay in this building here and teach high school students. We definitely do focus a bit on math here, but it's something I've been here for 15 years. Yeah, so what do we do here at Pre-Tech? Pre-Tech's the class that I wish I could. When I was in school, I did not have an opportunity like this, and the students that get here, well, this is kind of like the traditional path of how career awareness, preparation kind of go for students. They need to know that they need to get a job, something, and that's usually done by the parents going off to work every day or people that they know. There's some point in time where hopefully they get a chance to safely explore the careers that could be available to them. And then finally, once they pick something, they go ahead and get prepared to actually be successful in whatever career field they're in chosen. We do a great job of letting them know they have to get a job. We do a really good job here at the Tech Center prepping them for those jobs to come, but unfortunately, the thing that often gets overlooked very often, especially with middle school or high school age students, is that a safe place to explore and see what their options are before they actually make that choice isn't always available. And that's the purpose of this class, is what could you do before you actually make the choice of what I want. The saying that I probably said to many of you, you've heard me say before, students never going to pick a job they don't know exists or can be a reality for. So opening their eyes up, exploring this world of work in the areas that they are already interested in, and once they're like, I never even thought of that. Whether they're looking at things that could be possible or really crossing them off for certain, I know, and not wasting any more time as we explore our careers, and then we can get to that prep once we know exactly what we want for them. We can actually make that leap course. So that's kind of what we focus on, is exploring our careers, and we do so in a number of different ways. This is kind of what drives us right here. We worked with the VTAOE, the CTE department, in defining proficiencies for pre-tech exploratory programs. These are the headings with which much of our curriculum works under. We definitely start off with safety, because we do a lot. We don't just talk about it. We're educated to try a lot of things out. So safety is paramount for us. But you can see that the gamut kind of threads all over the things that are going to get you ready for a job, and also to adult stuff. The first part of the year, students all come in from different schools, and oftentimes it might be their first experience here at the Tech Center. So the first part of our year is exploring what we have through thematic units in different programs. When we visit each program, students do projects and hands-on activities where they get chances to try out different things that students would be learning in those programs to see, is this something that I enjoy or have to already for, or validating. I've done this a million times with Mr. B. To getting into field trips and getting out of the building and seeing and speaking with employers who work in these fields, their best, their worst parts about their jobs, the pathways they've taken to get there, and ultimately, what kind of advice would you have for a 14 and 15-year-old student who might be interested in seeing themselves in a place like that? We do a lot of visits here, And we spend this first half of the year really looking at that menu as to what could be an option. And then the second part, which is something that we're in the portion right now, we literally just started last week, is the tables get turned. And I put it on students individually to choose a career that they're interested in pursuing for these next level. I'm not asking for a lifelong commitment to doing this job. It's the fact of actually exploring a career. What would it take to get this job? What would I need to know how to do? What would I need to explain that I have already the knowledge for? What kind of personalities and aptitudes succeed in these areas? Maybe not more once they pick the career of choice, which is kind of what we're working through right now, and many of our students have gotten there, some are still working on them, they have to do a number of things that relate to that career. The first thing, well, I shouldn't do the first thing, but the first thing I have up there is they pick a project that they design themselves that relates to that career. The project has 3 criteria for it. It relates to that job, it provides them with new learning skills, and it benefits somebody other than just themselves. So whatever gets generated out of this project they take on here, they're growing, but they're also assisting others in whatever way that they choose. And really, it depends on the career they pick. Helps them advise what that project is. I can talk about some examples. Job shadow, that's a big one. I kick them out for at least one day and say, you gotta go. I can't tell you everything about work. I'm not going to show you everything, and I'm not going to be here. So we connect them with local employers. Dave Kohler, our co-op coordinator, works tirelessly with Pretext, as I filled in 32 students that he introduced himself to, and very quickly we start figuring out what would be appropriate for these students, so that these kids can get a sense of what it's like in the sector of their interest. And not with us hanging over on a field trip, really in a one-on-one environment. That way, they can get the questions answered that maybe in a group setting, they might be a bit more safe. Oftentimes students come back from this program, job shadows, with either, whoa, Mr. V, you never guessed what I did, or a, ooh, that's not exactly what I thought it would be. Those are both really good things in talking about getting this now, instead of thinking everything. They create a pathway, so that way they can have ideas. What are my options to get this job? If this is the career that I actually want to pursue. Not to say that I have to pick any one of those, but it's good to know what your options are before you actually do make choice. And then oftentimes a lot of students choose to go back and revisit certain programs, either ones that they're really interested in, or maybe ones that they missed the first time around, or the day that they visited, the activity or what was going on might have been something they wanted to see something else. We organize a lot of revisits in the second part of it. Who's in this class? It's only 9th and 10th grade students. That's what the assessment part of everybody else. The rest of the programs in the center are designed for juniors and seniors. They can do. This is the only full day class, full program class for the 9th and 10th grade students for them to really sink their teeth into what is this what we want to have to start wrapping my head around. We get students from Bellows Falls, Springfield, and a number of home study students as well as a couple of smaller schools and occasional centers. Those are our 3 main players right there. And it's nice because, as with the rest of the programs, it's a mixture. It's not a Springfield class or a Bellows Falls class. It's an Arlington class that I have to work with people that I might not know, or maybe I wear a different color jersey with on Friday afternoons about, and it's kind of a good practice for them to show up to the workplace and work with whom your bosses choose to work with, as opposed to only working with the people that are in my company. So we try a lot of getting out there and working out. The problem is with some of them is that they have to be granted access to it. It's not a right for students to get free tech. Access. It's a privilege that some students have and some students unfortunately don't. A hope of mine would be to open that up and lower the barriers of access. More students could have the ability to seek out this type of programming and also the awareness that it's an option for them. A couple pictures and I'll get to these. I mean, this is just some things that we do. Carpentry visit project that I done in the past. I can show you the final result of that. We get out, we work with horticulture, carpentry, every single program. Students get to get into them. work alongside the students in those programs. And honestly, the best situations are when the students in those programs become mentors to the younger students. And those students in the level 1s and level 2s can almost show what they know and they can pass on their skills. They've been past a year or two in that program there. And that's exactly what we're seeing right here. It's the student showing his cutting, playing, spelling. What was he thinking about when he did that? We do a lot of we actually just packed this up last week. Our lab turns into a giant new construction zone where residential wiring is a skill that we basis of. If that I almost said sparks interest. If that gets people going and they want more of that, we've got a great program right across the hall here. And if electricity is something that makes sense to them, they feel like I'm finding success here. Let's talk to this program instructor. Let's see what the opportunities are for you next year or the year after that, so they can kind of perpetuate the success and find it. We do a project later in the year sometimes where we design and build our own skateboards as well too from scratch. So it's a big. We kind of correlate it to the problem of having to find your own career. You got to make it yours. And that's exactly how I asked you to do this, is that this is a unique project. You got to make it yours. It looks like somebody else's. What's your path? What are you interested in? How does this speak about you? Other projects that students have done in the past. This is actually hanging in the Proctorsville Fire Department right now, made by a student who's a junior firefighter there. That is one of his year-end projects. As a partnership. This is a project we did over at the Cavendish Elementary School, and I'll show you the technology we use. But we have a vinyl cutter that allows us to create decals and vinyl of all sorts of different things. And we were commissioned by the PTSA at Cavendish to kind of come in and help brighten up the bathrooms that they had there and give some inspiration and some liveliness. So there just a few weeks ago. Listen, ladies. That's what I got for pictures here. Just threw a lot at you. I'm going to show you more, but are there any questions?
You struck me, Gabe, and obviously I'm familiar with the program, but is not only is this exposing students to what really may be their path while they're here at RVTC, but it's exposing them to a lot of different vocations. Just like you just said, with your own professional experience, our life path is not always a straight line, right? And so there may be something that a student's exposed to here through pre-tech that they realize 5 years from now, or whatever, like, wow, actually, I'd be curious to kind of go back to that. Wherever. So
it's really fun.
That's kind of the beauty of this.
Just today, we had a field trip to Whalen Engineering. Where we do field trips to them almost every year, and they're a great partner for us. And they open up their doors and really show my students like all the different things that are kind of, it's inside this mystery box. You drive by. We know what they make. How do they do it? Who people do it? Well, we walk in there, we do our annual tour, and every year I go in there now, I start bumping into former students that are like, Mr. B, this is great. I had no idea. I've been here for years now. You're helping me achieve this goal. And it's kind of like a great thing to hear from the students that were sitting in these seats that are now on the other side of the coin, succeeding in adulthood, finding success in what the career that they chose, and honestly finding like, where can I further go? That's the message I look for encourage students to hear. And I can't say that. It has to kind of come organically, hop into those corners, kind of fill it in. I used to be a tech student, and this is how I got here. Like that's what really resonates. It's like, so it's not even though what you do. I don't think you said I know you also too, you're kind of short here as well. I'll be ready to that. This is their classroom. We kind of start class every day. We usually end it here as well too. It takes many different forms, whether we're on the road, doing visits, working in our labs over here, and this is where I'll kind of show you. I have about 5 minutes left here, so I'll be right to you. You got that? Oh, that clock's right. I don't think it is. Oh, stop. Yes. One of our labs here, we call this the room that stays. Electronics technology spends a lot of time in here. We have a whole suite of 3D printers in the back that are really working very well for us. We've got a laser engraver cutter right over here. This is that vinyl cutter that I was speaking about that helps cut out those different either decals or in this case, vinyl that gets pressed onto a shirt. And you can see this is actually some of the work that my students have done. Our fundraising activity that helps support some of the things we'd like to do in here. We reach out to our partners in the center and around. Hey, could we provide any custom apparel or other for you? And audio, video production. You can see right now we're working on a criminal justice project right now where the students will come to us and say, this is what we're looking for, the colors, the sizes, and we help basically figure out what they're needing and either purchase the stuff and make it for them, or we put it on their apparel. That's one of the fundraisers that helps support some of the activities that we do here. And students also kind of get the practice of running a business, having a client expects a quality product at the end here, so that when they are done and they hand it on over, they can almost see on that face of like, or wow, this is awesome. And it really is just a see those items going around here. This is a really cool project we did for the first time this year. If we had a few more printers, I was able to get more projects happening at once. And students designed their own chess sets by Tinkercad, printed them out in 2 separate. Then they also used Adobe Illustrator to design their chess boards. And we used the laser cutter and engraver to actually cut those out right there. So in the end, they did a bunch of different 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional design, putting it all together into one thing. And we've been playing some chess. It's been fun, right? So that's been a really cool thing. But this is kind of the room where when we're working on something and it's not too dirty, where we kind of do it. And this is where we get messy over here. So dusty, dirty, whatever it needs to be. This is the room for that right here. You can see we literally just took the walls down earlier this week. These are all full of boxes, wires, switches, and students have practice putting all together here. I have a couple other projects around. This is a bridge project, but you can see some prints that people are working on here and some of the tested bridges that have already been tested. That's why they're in the state that they're in right now. You can also see some of the results in the board still up there as far as the max capacity bridges. Some very, very this is the project we started the year with, where they had to design a contraption that kept the passenger safe, a raw egg, while traveling the maximum possible speed. That egg was crashed into a cinder block wall, and their job was deciding that problem that would achieve the results was the first thing they had to do this year. It's a nice entryway into this kind of thinking of you all have a problem. You got to get it clear. How are you going to solve that for yourself? Because if you follow someone else's path, how they solved it, you might not be happy where you end up. So it's important that you take your own path, figure out what your strengths are, and your challenges are, and your skill sets that you like, and maybe the ones that you have that you don't really want to use, and find the job that fits you the best. Because I can't tell you what it is. You got to explore. You got to try. You got to fail, and that's why exploring careers in a safe environment where, yeah, we're going to keep on looking. That's something that these students need. More students need access to.
What percentage of these students go on to like what we call a regular program?
Currently, right now, I don't have the percentage, but I'd say of my 31 students, I think about 27 or 8 of them are currently already enrolled for a program next year. And that's pretty consistent. Usually what holds back a student from enrolling next year would be is if they are in a career right now and they're looking at a career like health careers or criminal justice or maybe industrial trades where it's very difficult for sophomores to get to those programs and they have to kind of wait a year. But many do. Any other questions? Well,
I know you work with other centers, matching what you do or learning from other tech centers that offer pre-tech programs. Would you say this is about the same as everybody else does, a little bit different, or how?
A little bit different, for sure. It seems as if every tech center has a different kind of spin, how this program kind of suits the basically the needs of the sector, as well as like the needs of the schools that send students to them. So for some, they spend more time doing more, we'll say, academic side things, where others are strictly only career exploration. We try to strike a balance. And I'm not gonna say it's right or wrong, it's just kind of how we landed right here. I do have big ideas for the future, but I don't know if that's the time for that.
Yeah, and I'll point out that this program in the last couple of years has been fully subscribed, and really very little attrition this year. I think we lost one student at midterm, which is not an uncommon thing for all of our programs. Hey, you need this class. It's the only time it's offered, but students are sticking with the program this year at a pretty high rate. Is it any, you think it's anything different that you did this year, or just
Different this year?
yeah, you wonder? I bet I'm speaking too soon.
It might be too soon. I'll say this though, every year though, one of the things I love the most about this particular class every year is that I get a new batch of students that have different interests. We're not always talking about the same career. I'm not always talking about the same path, same things. It's every year. I have one right now. The career that they're looking at is a voice actor. I've never been challenged with finding a voice actor to connect them with before. That's gonna be new learning for me. So it kind of keeps me on my toes and not stuck in the way we've always done things, because whoever walks in this room, I have to be responsive to what their interests are. I'm not telling them what jobs are out there they must take. It's their choice. So when they come to me with that kind of interest, it's up to us to start figuring out how we're going to connect you with somebody who's going to take this jobs like this. I ain't going much about voice acting.
Yeah, we do figure it out. I remember it might have been one of your very first years, is we had a student that wanted to be a pilot that connected with in Burlington, and they flew JetBlue with in the cockpit with a pilot and back as part of their shadow, I believe.
The full day with the whole pilot's crew from the 5:50 takeoff from Burlington to their 4 or 5 stops and then back to Burlington at the end of the day. They spent that entire day in the cockpit. Speaking with the employees who do this work, seeing what their work is like, they came back fully charged. So
Yep.
this is a goal. And sometimes students come back and they say, like before, like, wow, now that I know that, maybe I want to look at something different. These are both wins, because now we're not wasting time going down a pathway that maybe we wish we would have known something different. We would have gone there. So that's kind of how we phrase it and say, as long as you're interested in what you're looking at, we're on the right track. But if we're at a point here where we're pursuing something where your interest is fizzling, but maybe we need to get on a different path. So that's ultimately going to be something you have to live with forever. My class will live with.
I will say that, what Gabe would say is we'd like to expand the enrollment in this program. We used to have 2 instructors, but it really all comes down to, do we get more referrals? Because there is a bit of a gateway at the schools for this particular age level. Now they're looking to change it statewide, but geez, 9th and 10th graders exploring careers seems like is a pretty good idea. But a lot of schools do things like a freshman academy where they're locked in with a team and all of that, which makes it hard to get free to take a program like this too. So there's some challenges inherent.
Doggies are inside because it was, they were outside most of the day, all day, most of the day, but it was really cold. I didn't know exactly what time you're going to get home, so I just put them all, they're all 3 inside. Nobody's fed.
So that way we start reducing the excuses as to why not, and we get to why not.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Of
you.
course, yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks
V.
for coming in. Appreciate it.
I know. I gotta
Bob, are you talking? The whole room is muted if you're talking.
I'm talking now. Can you hear me? All right. That's a good sign.
Yes, now we can hear you.
I'm just babbling otherwise. We're waiting on Gabe, and there's Gabe. All right. You ready, sir?
We said you were coming. We wanted to make sure you got the whole thing.
Okay, so we're recording now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. It's 5:06. We're back in business. Want to thank our friend Gabe Bastola for a great program presentation about the pre-tech program, and a lot of great things going on down there as always, and a wonderful gateway into the RVTC. So thank you, Gabe. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda?
We do not.
Okay. Any public comments?
They're not, they're on the agenda, it says we're gonna have action items.
Oh, yeah, let me note that. So just back to agenda changes or additions under item C under old business. The technology equipment building reserve spend down update says information/action. It will just be information only. Okay, and any public comments? All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Could I get a motion to accept, please? Lois and Liza. Anything, Scott, on the consent agenda to talk about?
Oh, yeah, we're about students ahead of where we were last year. We left 10 at the mid-year break, and that's pretty, the semester break, that's a pretty common thing as students pick up classes they may need at their sending schools or decide, hey, I'm gonna go do something else. So, but holding strong where we were the year before, ahead of pace, and we are ahead of pace for projections for next year. We'll have Bellows Falls here on Friday for a program for visit.
Any questions for Scott on that or anything in the consent agenda?
And our surplus continues at a big old $786. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when I update on the reserve spend down and where we stand for that.
Great. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's fine.
Questions, comments? All right, those in favor of approving the consent agenda, raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. All right, old business, VTBLC, Ashley.
Hi, nice to meet you. I haven't officially met you yet. I'm Desiree. Nice to meet you. Sorry, we didn't do that. So I will jump right in, and if there's any questions, let me know. So the first is our financial reports. We are right on target, and I'd like to thank Christine for all the work that she does. See her on the screen. She is fantastic and keeps us on track. So there's a few things that were shifted over. So if you're looking at our finance system, things are shifted over from the last month. And that is because some things are hard to predict with funds coming in and when they do come in. The good thing that we have right now is that in December, we had projected dipping in about $413,000. We had originally budgeted for $353,000, and now that's kind of where we are. So we have a projected loss of $380,000, which is less than what we had projected in December. And that was due because we had anticipated a certain amount of K-8 tuition, and we were a little bit short on that, but we are making it up in some other areas with some custom projects. So far, we are doing really well. But just again, a huge shout out to Christine, because she does keep us on track along with Nancy, and we appreciate all the work that she does. So that is the financial update. Any questions about that one? Okay, we have been really busy at VTBLC for the last month. Just recently, we celebrated the National School Choice Week. We received a grant of over $6,000. That grant provided activities for students to participate in. So we went bowling last week, which was a blast. And we learned so much about everybody on staff, who can bowl and who can't. And that's always entertaining. We had over 10 families join us, and just a shout out to Chrissy and Harold, who chaperoned that event. Then we also did ice skating, which if you can't perfect it in the yard right now, you can go to Burlington and perfect it there. And that was also a wonderful experience. Jen Hardy and Melissa Sargent Minor both put on a pair of skates and enjoyed themselves there. And then later in March or in April, we actually have a group that's going to be gathering for some pottery painting. So we're excited to do that as well. And every one of our full-time students had access to a coupon code of $15 so that they could purchase something at VTBLC from the school spirit store. So we are really excited to be able to do those items for the school choice. And it's just a huge shout out to Lucy Gagner and Chrissy Pelletier, who did all of the coordinating, and Tina as well. So Tina has been there with us with our credit card when we need it and contacting. So without that assistance, we would not be able to do this. Just a little bit of a custom project update. We continue to provide teachers and services to schools who are finding a teacher shortage. Currently, there are 168 students that we have enrolled in custom projects, and they are supported by Beth Frazier, Victoria Stansberry, Adrienne Delenko, Doc Goulet, and Jess Leo. They are ranged from the top of the state to the bottom of the state, from math to health and to world language. I do just want to share on April 10th and 11th, we have our online and blended learning conference. Our theme is elevating student voice and highlighting Act 77 flexible pathways. This year we have an incredible keynote speaker. Her name is Dr. Smita Razuka. She is the Vice President for Student Affairs at Middlebury College, and we are really excited to welcome her and to talk about how your education is part of your family's story, and how the more we take advantage of the educational opportunities in front of us, the greater our stories become. I forgot, and Scott reminded me last month, I also met with Floodbrook and had a great opportunity to complete their interview questions. If you check out their website, you can see the answers. You can see Scott and I live both on that one. That's kind of cool. I wanted to give a marine biology update. This board was very gracious and approved a field trip for us that would be happening this spring. Unfortunately, we did not have enrollments enough for students to attend on that trip. We're thinking that some of the barriers that students are facing is the overwhelming cost of the trip. So we are going back to the brainstorming and seeing how we can make this trip a little bit more economically feasible for students and families. We do, however, have last year's trip going this April. If you remember, there was a hurricane, there was a bunch of chaos, and yet they got stuck in Burlington due to like an airplane failure. And ended up postponing, so they're going to be heading off to the Little Caymans in April. Jen Hardy's class, she's our 5th and 6th grade teacher. She is wonderful about contacting guest speakers, and students have an incredible opportunity to formulate questions prior to that event, and then they professionally ask their questions and get feedback from the guest speaker. This guest speaker, her name was Molly, and she's a graduate student, and her focus was on nutrition. If you were able to participate in that, you would know that there are no unhealthy foods, Lois. This is what I learned. It's only in how you eat them and the moderation that it takes, which I, as a person who happens to love chocolate ice cream, really enjoyed that nutritionist perspective. But I do think it's a great opportunity for students to learn how to engage with somebody they have not met over Zoom, and then really have some thoughtful questions. They range from how late should you eat to what meal is the most important, to are cheeseburgers really bad for you? Or my mom says that soda's bad for your teeth, are carrots good for you? So really awesome experience. My favorite one was, it is actually a myth. You can swim after eating. You don't have to wait.
Not 20 minutes?
You don't have to wait 20 minutes anymore.
Well, I tell my mom she was wrong.
I know, all that time you've been waiting 20 minutes after you've eaten, you can stop that. I guess we should adjust to who the audience is, because there's probably some families out there right now saying, please don't provide that information. The other piece I do want to share is that Harold Vance's English 2 class was very fortunate to receive the Vermont Humanities Award, and got quite a few books of the book Gather that's written by Ken Cato, and they are going to be reading that. And Ken Cato is actually going to be coming on February 13th virtually to present not only to our middle school students, but to high school students. And I have 2 more because it's been a busy month. Esports is back in action. This is a huge shout out to Harold and Elijah who run our esports program. We do play under the RVTC name. We have a Rocket League for our high school, and I apologize, I did not provide the middle school one yet. The high school team has started and they are ready to go. It is a fantastic opportunity for students to collaborate. If you have not seen an esports game live, I highly recommend it. You can also look at Keene State College. You can look at a lot of different schools that have thriving esports teams, and it is an eye-opening experience. And then lastly, we had a visit from VINS, which is the Vermont Institute of Natural Science that's located in Pucci, and they came and spoke to our K-6 students on Wednesday, so last Wednesday. So it's been a busy month. For a short month, it's been busy. Any questions about this?
Any questions for Ashley?
I can add one, Ashley, that we just got awarded a McClure grant, and Jess Leo and I are working on organizing some career exploration programming for our 7th through 12th graders. So we're pretty excited about that, and we've partnered with Vermont Works for Women to use part of the grant with them, and they do a fabulous job. They helped us last year with speakers. So we're pretty excited to bring that career exploration opportunity to our 7th through 12th graders at VTBLC.
Cool. Thanks, Jennifer.
The last piece in the board packet that is from us is our current enrollment numbers. We continue to grow. It was a little bit of a challenge. This was pulled just before the start of our second semester. So the next day, all of the numbers changed. But we are continuing to see quite a few enrollments in our traditional classes and our on-demand classes. And in our full-time program, we see more and more families reaching out every day, asking about ways to enroll.
I mean, I know it's not new, but to see the impact of the custom programs on your enrollment and then on your financials. Great job by you guys in pulling that together on short notice, but just that's been a really positive thing.
It really has. We've been very fortunate, and we're happy to assist schools throughout the state based on that need.
Okay. Any other questions for VTBLC? If not, thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Jen. Okay, statewide CTE update.
Okay, Tina shared a few documents with you. These are really notes from the VACTAD president about meetings that are happening with the Agency of Education. There's a sprint team that's been put together about what does CTE look like in the future. So as we talk with Gabe about the barriers to access, this may be one of the avenues that maybe some of the barriers get reduced. Hopefully that's some of the good outcome. Right now, what they're focusing on, there was a meeting, I think it was on the 29th, 31st. It was mostly focused on the financials. I know that Christine's part of a group of the Independent Tech Center financial people that are putting their heads together to try to understand what they're talking about there. We had a couple drop-in meetings with the directors around the state, and that we relayed our concerns. Number one is, it looks like some of the funding is still in the books of the sending schools. We're a little bit worried about that because that creates that competitiveness or the illusion of competitiveness that we hope doesn't happen. And then the meeting today really outlines the roles and responsibilities of what the BOCES, Colorado BOCES is the model they're looking at versus the New York BOCES model. What would be the roles and responsibilities for the BOCES versus CTE versus the centers? And those are all notes that I shared with you. And again, this is really bootleg stuff. I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to share it with you, but I think we all need to know what is going on. The reason for the focus on the roles and responsibility is there was some concern that the distance or the gap between the Agency of Education and the BOCES was not wide enough, and that we would be just become a proxy for the Agency of Education, and that wouldn't be a good idea. And that what we come to is that the gap between what the Agency of Education does with this new model versus the rest of the system should be about the same. And I wasn't at the meetings. These are the notes. Then there's a modified letter in this packet that was sent along that has the big bold VACTAD logo on it. This is a revised letter that the directors have put together in response to the governor's proposal. It's a 17-pager that came out earlier this month. The reaction to what the governor and administration and the agency is projecting should happen versus what APA pitched. It's all happening very fast. I think this all, they're building it as they go. I think that this kind of shows light on some of the capacity for the agency and trying to make things happen. And it's all happening very quickly. Some of the stuff I haven't even shared with staff because it's just happened in the last few days. So we'll continue to monitor it. We have a legislative breakfast here on the Monday after town meeting day, and we're all going to speak from what's on that letter from Baghdad, that we do have some concerns because hopefully this matches what the very same organization came up with as recommendations to fix some of the barriers to access and students getting more CTE where they can. But a lot is happening that's hard to keep up with.
So I would just add, this is obviously part of the bigger, what the heck are we doing with education in the state of Vermont conversation? And just because something's proposed doesn't mean that's what's going to pass. And the sausage making hasn't even really begun yet. So we're trying to keep tabs on it as best we can, and we shall see.
Yeah, they're looking to some sort of a 2-year time frame, which is wow fast. We'll see. Again, as Bob says, there's a lot of now the sausage making happens. So we'll see.
Yeah. So any questions about any of that or comments? Okay. Ludlow at-large board member. Get this figured out?
Yes. So it's kind of organic the way Desiree came to us. Desiree was the site of a field trip. I think, was it Pre-Tech? No, somebody else.
Industrial trade.
Industrial trades. And we were looking for somebody to replace Jim Rumraw, and I said to Dave Culver, who was that person that you visited that you thought was really great up there? Because they're in Ludlow. And reached out to Desiree, come on down for a tour. She came for a tour. She liked it. I think she already knew her, seeing if she would want to be a board member. And then we looked at what it would take to be a board member for the River Valley Technical Center. And there's a couple different paths, and we went on a path that we've never gone before, which is by petition. Because we wanted to get her deputized at this meeting rather than waiting till March, because we didn't warn the nomination. So Desiree worked very, very hard. She got 28 signatures, which is more than 1% of the registered voters in Baltimore. So she is eligible to be nominated. Desiree is the operations manager, Vermont operations manager at Magris. Did I say it right?
Yeah, you got it.
I'm really bad at words. If we have a student assembly and there's a bad word, name that I can't pronounce, Mr. Williams, why don't you announce this one? In Ludlow. So she's enthusiastic about RVTC, interested in being a board member, did a lot of work to become a board member. And I believe what happens is she gets voted on by only the school district members.
Vermont school district.
Vermont school district members.
So as a refresher course, because we're an independent school district, 60% of the votes on the board have to be elected school officials. So that's our sending schools, the Vermont sending schools, and their votes are weighted. It's never had to come to that, thankfully, the way we do things, but in theory, it's based on enrollment. So, and then the Vermont sending school members appoint the rest of us. So we look for a motion. So that means Jess, Lois, and Kelly are the 3 people involved in this discussion. So if one of you would make a motion to appoint Desiree Giroux as a Ludlow at-large board member for the remainder of the term ending June 2027. Okay. And
Bob, I will gladly make that motion, but I do have a clarifying question for Scott.
Yeah.
I heard him say something about the 1% voters from Baltimore,
Right.
and I'm confused why Baltimore if it's a Ludlow position.
Because our bylaws say it can be where the person works.
Or lives.
Or works or lives. So because she works in Ludlow but lives in we were a little confused by that, and we had to read it out loud a few times. But yes, she has to have the people of her town say she's good, but she has to be working in the town that she represents. Can be working for the town, yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that.
Sure thing.
And I can put you down for a second, Kelly? Okay. Any discussion from the 3 of you?
No.
All good.
All right, those in
Welcome.
favor, raise hands and
Thank
say aye.
Hi.
Okay, any three opposed, no? Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
You're one of us now, Deb.
You can keep your swag.
And I've had the pleasure of knowing her for a while and I'm tickled you're on the board.
you.
All right, technology equipment building reserve spend down update.
So we haven't spent any of the money, from the reserve since for months. But what we did learn is I mentioned that we lost 10 students at mid-year. 3 of those students were from Fall Mountain. We realized those tuitions in the same year that they come. It's not split over 6 semesters. We estimate that that'll be a loss of revenue about $15,000. Am I right about that, Christine?
Yeah.
She agrees with me. Whole different reason why she's great. She
That's
just,
so true.
yeah. And so before I would ask the board for authorization to go into the reserves to offset that, let's find out how the school year goes. You know, we'll be closer to the end of the school year in April, May. We'll be able to predict where we end up. We may need to tap into those. We may not, but we'll see. Some of it really depends on what are the expenses between now and the end of the year. With a $486 surplus, is that what I'm saying? $786 surplus. I think the likelihood is pretty high, but sometimes we have savings in the program lines, and we'll just have to see. I think we'll just hold off, and we may ask for a motion later to access more reserve funds.
That makes sense to everybody?
Sure.
Great. Teachers negotiations update. We'll have an executive session. We have had a couple of sessions. I think we made some good progress, so we'll update the board on that. Superintendent director position update.
Yeah, we're waiting a letter from Secretary Sanders, which is technically called advice from the secretary, which gives this authorization to move ahead and negotiate with the recommended candidate. So we've done our part, and Tina has been bird dogging a little bit, like, can we get a letter, please? So that usually is very effective with vendors and hopefully the Secretary of Education to do that. Interim Secretary of Education.
Any questions on that? All right, VTVLC update.
I know that they have some interviews scheduled real soon for some more of the candidates, so we'll see where that goes.
We've already had some.
Any questions on that?
No.
All right, on to new business. Annual meeting prep. The annual meeting is next week.
Yeah, next week on Thursday in the cafe at 7 o'clock. Make sure you clear your calendar for about a half an hour total, maybe less.
I can.
That's fine. And that's not a quorum thing, so if you can make it, that would be great. After the business meeting, which is a short business meeting, Scott will do a presentation about the proposed budget.
Short budget overview. And we'll have a new moderator,
Correct.
John Brady.
Forward to that and see how he does.
We had to use them twice last year already, so
Oh, I have faith. I know. Appreciate him
it
doing.
happens when your budget doesn't have.
Okay.
Thanks for getting them practiced up for us.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate
I
that.
got you.
All right, superintendent's report.
Hang on. I'm going to skip some of the more routine ones. We had one of our students finish second in the state in the stock market game. He wasn't going to tell me any tips, but it's nice that he finished second in the stock market game through our business and business program. The River Valley Rads. We got an older, this is the wrong one.
Was that the first event and then they talked about the weekend?
No, I've got the one attached is my November.
November,
Oh.
that's what I see too,
I don't
yeah.
have my December.
Uh-oh.
Do you remember? What do you remember?
What do I remember from?
At the air drone competition that they hosted.
We had a first place. We had 13 teams from all over. They ate 53 43 Domino's pizza. The smell of Domino's pizza is still in my brand new truck, so the new truck smell is gone, and I've got Domino's pizza cheese.
And that was the one this past weekend,
That was the one this past weekend. It was pretty awesome.
because they had another event earlier in January.
That was the on the ground robots, the first robots.
I think it was 21 teams and they were supposed to have 33, but somebody didn't come because of the weather.
This is not my laptop.
Okay.
so can't get to it.
I mean, I went to the earlier event in January and it just was so cool to see the energy over there in the gym and just these kids doing all these things with these robots and stuff, and it was neat. Chris Gray gets tons of credit for pulling this together, and it just is such an exciting opportunity for the kids from not just here but all over. Obviously, I like the fact that we won this past weekend too. So they're going to, are they going to West Virginia, I think, or something?
Yes.
Yeah, we've done last couple of years.
There's a couple more competitions, so more teams will have a chance to qualify for the RADs before the season ends.
Great. Anything else jog your memory banks?
Oh, geez, no.
Lots of meetings.
Yeah. All right. So we want to call that it for the superintendent?
We can call it, yeah.
Okay. We have any other business at the moment? Would ask for a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Title I VSA, Section 313. To enter executive session to discuss the teachers' agreement negotiations because premature general public knowledge will clearly place people at a substantial disadvantage, inviting Scott and Derek. Can I get a motion, Sarah?
Second.
And seconded by Jess. Discussion on the motion? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you, Reese.
All right, we're back in open session. It's 5:45, and after a little bit of a delay, Scott, your superintendent's report.
There we go. And it's not from memory. Good thing I wrote it down. January 6th, Tim Gould joined us as our new criminal justice instructor. He's just retired as a Vermont State Trooper. He was able to spend a week with Mark Chase, the outgoing instructor, and we're just fortunate to have such a quality hire. Tim was at headquarters of the state police in charge of a lot of their certification and making sure like their policies are in line with what happens in police work in the nation and the other states. We had 32 Fall Mountain students here visit on January 9th. 32 is way better than the 5 we had the year before. So very good. Over a side note that I had Deb here for the Fall Mountain superintendent. I want to call her Deb Livingston. Mansuro. Yeah. Interim superintendent had a great tour. Expressed a desire to work more closely together, but the politics on each side of the river is a little bit in our way. But does want to work more closely with us, whatever that means. We had Kelly Broker Campbell was at Wethersfield collaborating with the STEM teacher at Wethersfield, Tara Ordway Smith, on the first Lego League. She pretty much is there every Tuesday. She did Kelly also did manufacturing, engineering, career awareness for 6th graders at Bellows Falls on January 9th and 10th. We hosted the VEX RADs here for a tournament. We had 18 teams from all over northeastern United States and Canada. I guess I hear the team from Quebec is very serious about it.
And Thetford.
And Thetford.
They were the reigning national champs last year.
We have some students who started the Champlain College's Cyber Start program, which is a unique program where they're doing curriculum here, but then also they log in after school hours once a week with a professor up there, and they're earning college credit in a introductory cybersecurity class. And we can talk about that. We had all the Springfield sophomores here for Exploration Day on January 17th. This is part of what we call recruitment season. So we go out, our students talk to students in their auditorium, and then they come visit here and explore programs that they may have some interest in. Last minute robotics team went to the Belmont Bash and a Bulldog Bash, and we earned the Jerry Award for outstanding Sportsmanship, it was a last minute thing. They needed some teams and our students went over there and performed very well. It's all on our Facebook page. Beautiful. Pictures of kids with trophies smiling. It's a good thing. We had 7 students participate in LNA testing and 7 passed. We did a pinning ceremony here. I filmed the video. It was very touching. And some of the students were kind of welling up as they recited the LNA pledge. Makes you really think about what you're doing sometimes. It's awesome. Pre-tech students, as Gabe talked about, been doing in-depth visits and multifaceted visits over at Wayland in Charlestown. Fellows Falls helps us out with the bus, and it's a great way for the student to learn about what's happening over at Wayland, possible career opportunities. And there we go. Was worth waiting for.
Always.
Always good stuff.
All right, any questions for Scott?
No.
Do we have any other business? No. All right, so annual meeting next Thursday, the 13th. Town meeting day on March 4th. Hopefully folks got in the mail the flyer about RVTC and this year's budget. We obviously
Springfield
encourage you.
School District is copying it.
So we encourage folks to get out and vote, and we would ask for your support. And then the next regular board meeting will be the day after that on March 5th.
This
And-
is my last.
And I want to thank Lois for her service to the board. Representing Green Mountain. Well, we enjoyed having you. It's been
Yes.
wonderful. All right, no other business. We are adjourned at 5:49. Thanks, everybody.